Make sure you turn on the microphone.
See what I'm saying? So what are, because we already voted on a lot of it in 2016.
And I told Jay, or not Jay, John Keith, I said I think we should have increasing dollars. I don't know, I guess you could say election decisions. I don't know. I mean, we're doing better than what we were. With, I understand too,
I'd like to call the Butte-Silver Bowl Council of Commissioners regular meeting for Wednesday, February 7th, 2024 to order. Let's have a roll call.
9 present, 3 absent.
9 present, 3 absent. 3 absent. Please note that Commissioner Anderson, Commissioner Fisher, and Commissioner Shea are all excused from tonight's meeting. Next, could we move to the prayer and the pledge? Commissioner Sorich, would you lead us, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive, fellow commissioners. Almighty God, we implore you, look upon us and guide us this night as we make decisions which will greatly affect our community of Butte-Silver Bow. Direct our thoughts, words, and deeds so that we please you and best serve our fellow citizens. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, we'll move on to the approval of minutes of the January 17, 2024 regular meeting. Commissioner Frederickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. At this time, I move to approve the minutes from the January 17th, 2024 regular meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there anything on the question? Could commissioners please vote? And would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
9 yea, 0 nay.
9 yeas, 0 nay, motion passes. We don't have any items that are not addressed on tonight's agenda, so we'll move on to the Chief Executive's report. As many of you may have heard, REC Silicon made an announcement today that over the 6 to 9 month period, they're going to be shutting down their poly side of their business out at REC. That it will not affect the gas side of REC, but the cause of the shutdown is really the open market prices and what the cost of energy is for them, and it's just it's cost prohibitive for them to be out on the open market, and so they're making plan to shut down over that 6 to 9 month period. And so we're going to work closely with the management out there. The gas side of the polysilicon, it is still very productive. They made a huge investment over the last couple of years out there, and so that will continue. And so we will work with them about what the future holds for REC with those employees, and you know, we wish all of them the best, and Butte-Silver Bowl will be there to work with them to help them if they are displaced or what we need to do. So that was a surprising announcement today, but we will work with them. Other things that we've been doing, we've been working with the Behavioral Health Alliance, working on things that we need to do in our community, talking about our crisis response team and how we need to model that in the community, and working with all of our partners of how we're addressing the most vulnerable people with needs in our community. And so we're continuing to work with all of the different agencies on that, and so there's more to come. The Crisis Now model that the state has asked us to create a program working around that. We will be coming forth with a plan, what that looks like. The hard part about any of the things that we're working on is the lack of resources around mental health. And so as we've seen, there reduced resources of like Western Montana Mental Health, places where we can take people that are in crisis. But all of the community partners are working together, and we'll come up with a plan, because as we do well in Butte, we figure things out and we take care of those that are most vulnerable in our community. Another announcement that I think everybody saw on their desk today is Danette Gleason has announced that she, I'm not going to say retirement, but she is handed in her plans for resignation in Butte-Silver, and that's just for her and a career change for her. Danette and I have been talking extensively over the last few months about this transition. We're working on some transitional planning, what that's going to look like. Karen Hassler, our assistant director in there, we'll be working with her on this, on our transitional planning in there, and so there'll be more to come with that. But I just want to speak to Danette and the valuable asset that she has been for Butte-Silver over many years. She started her career in Butte-Silver in the finance and budget department, left for a while, and then came back to us. And she's been an incredible asset to me and all of the chief executives that she's worked with, and all of the commissioners and department heads. And her knowledge of not just finance and budget, but just her knowledge of Butte-Silver is going to be missed, but it's not going to go away. We're going to rely on her still, and so there's more to come on that as we go through this. But Danette, one of the things that she put on there was March 29th is her date that she's leaving, and that was probably that's my birthday, and that's probably the worst birthday gift that I got news of for that. But we want to wish her well, and we still got some significant time as we work on this transitional planning. So. With that, we're going to move on into the agenda items today. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move Section 3 in front of Section 1 here. So in Section 3, the reason that we're doing this is that we have, what's that? Oh yeah, we better do public comment first. I kind of jumping the gun on that. Thank you, County Attorney Joyce. First, we'll move to public comments. So if anyone would like to come forward, speak on any item on the agenda tonight, come forward to the mic, state your name, the agenda item, and what you'll be speaking to us about. So, seeing none, see, I knew I was going to skip that. Nobody wanted to talk today. So we'll move to Section 3. Section 3 is communications to be read and acted upon. We have one communication number 2024-60, J.P. Gallagher, Chief Executive, requesting Council of Commissioners concurrence for the appointment of John Moudray, 3005 Richardson Street, Butte, Montana, as the Director of Community Enrichment. Commissioner Frederickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. It is with great pleasure that I move for the concurrence of the appointment of John Moudray as Director of Community Enrichment.
We have a motion and a second. Is there anything on the question? Seeing none, could Commissioner... And would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
9 yeas, 0 nay.
9 yeas, 0 nay, 0 nay. And I would like to invite Mr. Moudray to come up. And for one, I would like to, address Mr. Moudray in his role as Community Enrichment Director. Mr. Moudray has taken over as the Community Enrichment Director in an interim basis, and then we put the job out for advertised, and he interviewed and won the job. But I think that he has done a really admirable job of taking over the Community Enrichment Department. I think we've seen improvements on seeing trailers, junk vehicles, community decay, and just overall a lot of different things that have come a long way. And John has been a great calming force. He has a presence that people can talk to him and go to him, and so I think he's done a fantastic job. So I'd just like to first congratulate you, John, on the appointment to being Community Enrichment Director, and we look forward to your leadership in this department. So with that.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher, members of council. First off, I would like everybody to know I will keep Danette's cell phone number, and I know where she lives. Her and I have grown up in this county. This April it will be 27 years I will be with the county. I'm not going to ask how long Danette's been there, but I have relied on that person for a long time within this county, and she will be missed. First off, I would like to thank Chief Executive Gallagher for his confidence in me. And moving forward, 27 years, there's been a lot of accomplishments I feel that I have done for Butte-Silver Bowl, but there's a few more I want to make. In the back row there, I have family here. I have my wife, Kathy, my daughter, Molly, my sister-in-law, Judy, and the reason I do what I do is the 5-year-old in the back row, Lucas. So I had to say his name. He loves to hear it, but I think I can make Butte a better place. I have some things I still want to move forward with, and I look forward to working with the Council of Commissioners to make Butte a better place.
Thanks, John. Any commissioners like to say anything? I just want to say thanks to Kathy for allowing John to do the work that he does. Molly and Judy, thank you for being here today. And Lucas, thank you for being here today. Now you guys can go out and celebrate, but first off, I think a big round of applause for our new director. Thank you. Now, thanks, John. So next we'll move on to Section 1, bid openings, public hearings, and our presentations. We have one presentation tonight. The first one's communication number 2024-28. Julie Jackshaw, Butte Food Co-op Board, requesting Council Commissioners authorization for time on the February 7th, 2024 council meeting for a presentation to share information regarding the Butte Food Co-op and answer any questions. Ms. Jackshaw.
Chief Executive Gallagher, Commissioner members, thank you so much for having us this evening. I just want to take a minute and introduce my team that I brought with me. I have with us tonight Debbie Smith, who is our president of the Butte Food Co-op Board, Chrissy Krakowski, who's the secretary of our board, Clinton Elliott, who's a member of the board, and Heidi Noyce. She's the newest member to the board. We're missing our treasurer, Leo. He couldn't be here today, so we're sorry that he couldn't be here, Leo Prigge. And then, of course, Kelly Schermerhorn, who is our vice president. We wanted to come and give an update to the council. We've had some outreach from a few of the commissioners about what's going on with the co-op. I know that there hasn't been a lot of movement and a lot of concern in the community as we tried from the inception of 2019 to start the Butte Food Co-op. So we thought a great place was to start by reaching out to the commissioners and letting you know where we are in the process. As most of you know, we've been working behind the scenes on the creation of this community-owned food cooperative for a long time. In these challenging times, we recognize the urgent need for sustainable solutions that uplift our community and pave the way for a brighter future. Since 2019, we've been diligently working on this initiative, driven by a passion of community resilience and economic empowerment. Our board, comprised of dedicated individuals with diverse backgrounds, has guided our efforts with wisdom and vision. In addition, we are fortunate to have several highly engaged and committed community member owners who have lent their talents and energy to advancing our cause. To date, we have 869 members of the Butte Food Co-op, and we have 145 preferred share stockholders. Our location committee is comprised of individuals with strong background in real estate development, commercial construction, and energy efficiency. We have vetted over 50 locations in the community. We've walked through them, gone through the basements, through the attics. 3 we've made offers on, and unfortunately we've been outbid on those 3 locations. The group of the location committee has been instrumental in identifying these potential sites and negotiating agreements to ensure the success of our cooperative. Their expertise and dedication has been invaluable assets to us as we move the project forward. A community-owned food cooperative embodies collective commitment to the inclusivity, sustainability, and economic empowerment. It is more than just a grocery store, and that's what we want people to know. We're not looking to open Albertsons, we're not looking to open a Safeway, we're looking to open a community-driven grocery store that is owned by its members, where democracy runs the store and makes the decision. They get to vote on how it's ran, what it's stocked with, how it's operated, which is much different from, if you think about your local store that's for profit. The big thing that I want to leave with you is the community is a focus. We want it to be a focus space that the members can come and learn about good food and healthy food and have a vote in what the co-op owns for them. Every member has a voice in the decision-making process. This democratic approach not only strengthens the community bonds, but fosters a sense of ownership and accountability among its members. In our collaborative effort to bring this vision to life, we are partnering with cooperative professionals and drawing inspirations from across the country. Chrissy's going to touch on that a little bit in her presentation, but she currently serves on a couple of programs across the United States that have been guiding us in our decisions as we move forward. And then I sit on the statewide Montana Cooperative Development Co-op Board, and so we've been tied into them as well and been getting assistance from them. With passionate member owners already on the board, we have seen this momentum building within our community, and now it's time to capitalize on this opportunity. We cannot achieve our goals alone, and that's why we're here tonight. We need the support of Butte-Silver. We need the support of all of you to make this actually happen. As you know, because there's no one owner, we're going to struggle to get it financed at a local lender because one person is responsible for it. The support is crucial in turning the vision into a reality. By investing in the establishment of a community-owned food cooperative, you are not only promoting a sustainable, equitable food system in our community, but you're fostering economic vitality and resilience within our community, which we feel Butte-Silver Bowl really needs. Tonight, we will share some examples of community government partnerships, highlight our achievements, and update you where we are in the process. Thank you for your time, and I'm going to have Chrissy come up, and she's going to walk through a couple of slides with you and explain our mission, goals, and vision. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Welcome, Chrissy.
Good evening, Council. My name is Chrissy Kraskowski, and for the record, that's Kraczkowski. Like Julie said, we are developing a full-service cooperative grocery store here in Butte. This is not a weekly farmer's market. It's not a food hub. It's not a buying club or a CSA. It's a full-scale grocery store here, and it will be more than just a store. It will be a community hub, a place for people to gather, a place for people to connect with their producers, local producers. It will connect consumers with producers, the farmers who grow their food. It will have stock shelves with high quality food. It will have classrooms for various types of classes like cooking classes or sustainability classes. It will have grab and go and prepared food so that families here can have healthy food options if dad doesn't want to cook or mom is busy running the kids from activity to activity. And so our mission and vision has really helped guide us throughout our entire process. We've been working on this for quite some time now. Next. This is our timeline. So we are through the organizing stage. We are now what we call stage 2B, which is our planning stage. We follow the timeline of the Food Co-op Initiative. They have been instrumental in providing the blueprint for how food co-ops go from the very beginning to opening their doors. So we're right now working through our planning stage. We're looking at site feasibility. We're identifying our key partners. We're finalizing our business plan, and we're getting ready to prep for a capital campaign. And next slide, please. So, our needs. We have quite a bit of needs as a developing food co-op, but our primary needs take us to the completion of our feasibility stage in development and into our pre-construction phase. And those are really threefold: partnerships, capital, and expertise. Partnerships. For developing food co-ops in current times, partnerships with their city, with their county, their state, they're critical. Not only do they help keeping momentum in the community as we develop, but they also open up access to various forms of capital that a cooperative may not otherwise have access to. Like Julie said, we are a cooperative, and we, under Montana statutes, we are a for-profit organization, but we don't really qualify for a lot of funding because we are a cooperative. We're not a nonprofit. More on the partnerships to come too. Second is capital. The average food co-op takes 8 to 10 years to open. I know that sounds a little daunting, and that's from onset of idea all the way through the doors opening. The most challenging part of opening a co-op is getting adequate capital. Co-ops just aren't able to access traditional financing like a small business. 80% of project funding at least will come from member owner equity, that's our member ownership shares, member owner capital, so preferred shares or member owner loans. We as a co-op have decided to go with preferred shares, and what we like to call in the biz, creative capital. So that's sort of a catch-all term, which mainly consists of free money, like grants, donations, tax credits, federal or state appropriated funds, county economic development funds, et cetera. Like I said, it's a catch-all term. And this 80% is significantly higher than many established food cooperatives needed to open their doors in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and even the early 2000s. Those stores were looking at member owner contributions of about 50% or less, or about 80%. And then last is expertise. So we have been fortunate to work with experts in the food startup co-op space. Food Co-op Initiative is one of them. They've been really guiding us through this process. They have a very strong and well-documented track record of assisting co-ops from onset to doors opening. We've also received grant funding for outside experts to assist with us in helping with our market, financial, and site feasibility efforts. So while we are a pretty stellar board, as I like to think, there is some stuff in this process that is outside our scope of expertise. Next slide, please. All right, our why, and this is probably my favorite part, because I love talking about the Butte Food Co-op. If all of you have seen me in the community, you sort of know that's probably my first thing I try to bring up. We've been at this project for about 4 years now, a little over 4 years. So why are we still working towards this for Butte? It's a lot of work, it's a lot of time, and it's a lot of money. But it's also a lot of work, time, and money towards something that will have major benefits for our community. Co-ops, unlike dollar stores, are good for communities' economic growth, they contribute to a community's development, and they improve a community's health and well-being. With this co-op, more money is circulated back into Butte. So for every $1,000 that is spent at a co-op, $1,600 is then reinvested into the local economy. Grocery dollars will stay local. Folks won't have to travel to Helena, to Bozeman, to Missoula to do their grocery shopping. They can stay here and do that. Local and healthy food access will improve. So food co-ops have this really unique ability to improve food access for all. They are less bound by corporate red tape, so they can come up with creative ways to address local food access issues and food security challenges for our more vulnerable populations here in our community. Montana farmers and growers will also benefit from having another co-op in the state. We would be the second one in the state. The average co-op works with about 185 local producers. Community Co-op in Bozeman, I think, works with about 200 local producers and invests about $2.4 million into the local food system annually. This co-op will be more than a transaction. It'll be a community hub for Butte. The store we plan to build will have classroom space for cooking classes and health and wellness education. It will have seating space for people to gather together, for students to grab lunch and do their homework, for council members to meet up and have a snack before their meetings. It will have fair wages for the jobs that it creates. And perhaps the best aspect of a food co-op is that by design, the people who live and work here in Butte are the ones who own it. It's not a large corporation making decisions for our community. It's us. Next slide, please. So Julian mentioned some partnership examples from other food co-ops throughout the country, and I wanted to share a few of these that are in their development stages. So this is a short list of these food co-ops that are on the stage 3 of development, so that pre-construction or construction phase, that have had really great success in working with their city, their county, or their state as a partner. So primarily a fiscal partner. Through these partnerships, they have been able to access various sorts of funding, including community block grants, recovery funds, community economic development funds, federally appropriated funds through their state reps or senators, TIP funds. There's sort of a lot that they've been able to access because of these partnerships. For example, North Flint, Michigan, the project is spearheaded by the nonprofit, the North Flint Reinvestment Corporation. They began work on this project, I believe, in about 2016, and they have received money from the Michigan Strategic Fund, which is part of the Michigan Community Revitalization Program, and about $200,000 in community block grant funds by the city of Flint, another $500,000 from the Flint Kids Fund, which was administered by the Community Foundation of Greater Flint. So they've really worked with their county and their city to make sure that they have access to these funding to open their doors. We hope that Silverbow will follow suit and agree to serve as a fiscal and community partner when necessary for the Butte Food Co-op so we can continue to make progress and get our doors open. This project is huge for Butte. It's something we've stayed the course on because we believe in it and we believe what it can do for this community. So thank you for giving us this opportunity to speak and share our update with you. I'm going to turn it over to Heidi Noyes now to give some final remarks.
Thank you, Ms. Krakowski. There, I got it.
Good evening. I'm Heidi Noyes, N-O-Y-E-S. I am a Butte girl, but I've been gone for a long time. After finishing at MSU, like most engineering students in the 90s, I left the state for work. Spent about 15 years in Michigan and in Northern California, and then came home and started growing flathead cherries, organic flathead cherries. I was pleasantly surprised to see the amount of farmers markets and little groceries around that weren't there before. I've been in Bozeman for the last 10 years and had planned to come back to Butte to retire, but plans changed, and one of the major reasons that we decided to come home was the co-op. I like having good food around me, and I like having good access to it. So the opportunity arose, and I moved home in April, and I'm super happy to be here, and I'm really glad to be on this co-op board. The amount of work that they've put into it already is just amazing, and so we hope that you guys will support us and that we can get this done. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Noyes. Are there any questions from commissioners at all? Commissioner Callahan.
Thanks, Chief Executive Gallagher. Julie, I just got a question. What were the locations that you made offers on?
As I die.
Commissioner Callahan and
I won't say specifically because there's some that are still active on our list, but I can give you an example. We are trying to pick major corridors in the community that see a lot of traffic count. That's one of the visibility is one of the successes to the co-op. So the locations, typically we want good visibility, which of course when we met with our consultant, the Hennessy Market, that was something that they said to us, you know, yes, you could put a grocery store there. However, the visibility and the walkability of the Hennessy Market is not going to allow for you to be successful. And that's how that was removed from our list of potential sites. Another example that I could probably give you without them killing me is, you know, we looked at the bowling alley across from Safeway. So right before COVID, we had decided to talk to Rex Lifeheimer, the owner, and we were going to put into the second half of it where the mountain hot tub place is. And unfortunately with COVID, our plans derailed and we weren't able to execute that plan. But that's one of the locations that we heavily vetted. We looked at, we thought that it was a good fit for what we were trying to do in the community, and it was a good location. Some of the locations we've looked at, we've removed because of accessibility. Handicap accessibility is a big thing. Parking continues, you know, they're recommending above 60 spaces for us to have adequate parking because, you know, if we want to be successful, we can't just rely on folks to grab 1 or 2 or 10 items. We need shopping carts filled. So to go with that, you need good parking. And trying to find a place in Uptown Butte that allows for 60 parking spaces has been a challenge for us. But we continue to look, right? We continue to vet those locations out as they're given to us. We had 2 locations that we made initial offers on, and one we were outbid on, which was really, it was disappointing to the board because we thought that we had finally found a home for the co-op. But unfortunately, someone was able to pay more than we thought that we could pay, and they won the bid. Those are the kinds of locations that, you know, we looked at the mall. We've looked down on Harrison Avenue. We've looked at some vacant land. We just hired a company, Seven Roots is who we got a grant. And we hired those folks to come to the community. They spent 2 days, almost 3 full days here in the community, touring the community. They gave us great feedback on the locations that we had given to them to vet out. Some of them, they did not see the potential for us to be successful with, so they were removed, and others were continuing to vet. And basically what that means is we do have a gentleman that deals in real estate on our location committee, Russ O'Leary, and he's kind of been our point person as far as making initial contact, checking out, you know, the engineering, making sure that it ticks all of the marks for us, and then of course talking to the owner or the person selling the real estate. And we have made progress, you know, and since 2019 we have made progress on a few sites, but unfortunately we just haven't been able to close the deal.
Thanks, Ms. Jackson. And so Commissioner Sorich, you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Julie, I think you already answered my question. I was going to ask you if it's necessarily have to be in Uptown Butte, and you pretty much said no. Then I was going to ask you if you looked at the mall, and you already said you have. So
I will tell you that we do hear a lot of feedback about locating in Uptown Butte, and I think that a lot of folks that live in Uptown Butte, you know, really would like the market to be up here. We, interestingly enough, Seven Roots that we're working with, they had us do a map that shows our owner membership, and we're welcome to, we can share that with the commissioners so that you can see it as well. We have folks that have become members that do not live in Butte-Silver Bow, so they might live in Anaconda, Deer Lodge, Whitehall, Twin Bridges, but they chose, I think there's some in Helena, and I know there's even one in Great Falls that joined the co-op. So, but we overlaid that map to see where the majority of our member owners reside in the community, because what we're trying to do is find the right location that fits the community. And we don't feel like it's an uptown versus downtown. We feel like it's the best spot for the best visibility and for success, right? None of us that are sitting on this board want this co-op to open and then close 5 years down the road. We want it to be here 100 years from now for our grandkids and their kids. This isn't something that we're hoping lasts for 10 years till we get out of Butte. This is something we want to see here for the rest of, you know, history. So to us, it's important where it goes.
Thank you, Julie. On that, so any information that you want to distribute to them, like you send through us, we'll make sure that that gets to them. So like any of the information that you talk about, overlay of the community or whatever that you would like to share with us to allow the commissioners to understand more about what's going on, please feel free to send that through. Okay.
Sure.
Any other questions of commissioners? Seeing none, thank you. I appreciate, you know, Debbie, Chrissy, Clayton, and Heidi for being here tonight, and thank you for the presentation. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Next, we'll move on to Section 2, Communications, 1 through 4, and B 1 through 37. Commissioner Frederickson. Do we have any friendly amendments or segregations? It looks like Commissioner Thatcher first, and then Commissioner Sorge.
I would like to segregate number 30, communication number 2024-69, please.
Lots of pages today. So that's item number 30, communication number 2024-69. Commissioner Sorge.
thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I've got 3. Number 12, communication number 12, 2024-50. Communication number 24, 2024-63, and number 32, communication number 2024-71.
Okay, so go through those there. So we have item number 12, communication number 2024-50, communication number 24, communication number 2024-63, and number 32, communication number 2024-71.
Correct.
Any other friendly amendments and or segregations of commissioners? Seeing none, Commissioner Frederickson.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I move to approve Section 2 of the consent agenda, A 1 through 4 and B 1 through 37, with the exceptions of 12, communication number 2024-50, 24, communication number 2024-63, 30, communication number 2024-69, and 32, communication number 2024-71.
We have a motion and a second to approve tonight's consent agenda. Is there anything on the question? Could Commissioner? And would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
9 yeas, 0 nay.
9 yeas, 0 nay. 0 nay. Motion passes. Moving to item number 12, communication number 2024-50, Karen Burns, Community Development Director, requesting Council of Commissioners authorization to have Chief Executive Gallagher sign an agreement, Montana-CDBG-CV-22-01A, an amended contract between Butte-Silver and the Butte Rescue Mission in the amount of $700,000. This contract is being amended to be extended to June 30th, 2025. Commissioner Sorge.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. We could probably kill two birds with one stone with number 12 and 24. If I could just have Ms. Burns a question, please. I am just curious of what the basis is of extending these contracts.
Commissioner Sorge, Director Burns.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I'm Karen Burns, Director of Community Development, and Commissioner Sorge, thanks for your question. These are state contracts from the Montana Department of Commerce related to grant funds that we've received, and they are extended for time is the only reason that they're extended, because the contracts are still they're both out of startup conditions now. But there was a delay at the state in actually getting the projects underway and under contract with us at Butte-Silver. And then before we can draw any funds down, we have to solicit and go through and hire professionals to design the projects and then go out and actually start construction on projects. And these are both, one is the rescue mission, and the other one that you had the question about was the affordable housing units at the Phoenix building. And so we're working with the state, and they have agreed. They're the ones who instigated these extensions for time, not us.
Thank you, Director Burns. Any other questions? Commissioner Reardon.
These amounts are all in entirety grant money, right? Is that correct?
Commissioner Reardon, Director Burns.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Commissioner Reardon, yes, these are grant funds from the CDBG Community Development Block Grant Program that comes down from the federal government, from HUD to the state of Montana, and then we apply for these grants in a competitive process, and we're awarded these funds for these projects.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Burns. Commissioner Sorge.
Thank you, Karen, for the explanation.
Sure.
After hearing that, I'd make a motion that we concur and place on file.
For
Both number 12 and number 24, please.
We have a motion and a second to concur and place on file item number 12 and item number 24. Is there anything else on the question? Could commissioners please vote? Oh, Commissioner Frederickson.
I have to ask. County Attorney Joyce, are we allowed to do both under
Our
rules of?
Commissioner Frederickson, County Attorney Joyce.
Probably not.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Commissioner Frederickson, I mean, technically, probably have to go to item number 24 since it was segregated separately, and he could make that motion at that time.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
You're probably right.
So would you like to amend your motion?
I'll amend my motion that I'll concur with number 12 to place on file, which is communication number 2024-50.
We have a motion and a second to concur and place on file item number 12, communication number 2024-50. On the question, could commissioners please vote? And would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
9 yea, 0 nay. 0 nay.
9 yea, 0 nay, motion passes. And we'll just go in the order that we have here. So move to item number 24, communication number 2024-63. Karen Burns, Community Development Director, requesting Council Commissioners authorization to have Chief Executive Gallagher sign an amendment agreement MT CDBG 21 HSG-01A to extend the date to March 31st, 2025. This grant will be used for the construction of 15 affordable housing units in the Phoenix building. Commissioner Sorge.
Same thing. I make a motion that we concur with communication 2024-63 and place on file.
We have a motion and a second to communication number 2024-63. Is there anything on the question? Could commissioners please vote? And would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
9 yea, 0 nay.
9 yea, 0 nay, motion passes. Moving to item number 30, communication number 2024-69. Karen Malogny, Butte-Silver Bowl Health Officer, requesting Council Commissioners approval for the governance structure of the local opioid settlement committee. Butte-Silver Bowl may be eligible to receive the funding that has been set aside for our region. Commissioner Thatcher.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. I just received an email from Health Officer Malogny earlier this afternoon and asked me if I could just make some word changes in the actual letter and the attached document. So I didn't know if I could do that through a friendly amendment. So with that, I would like to amend the wording. The trust attorneys associated with this wished for a language change. They would like to change the wording under administration in the attached document. They want to change that from State Trust Advisory Committee to Montana Opioid Abatement Trust. So that is really the only thing I have. I suppose Health Officer Malogny could answer questions, but if not, I would like to make a motion. Is that okay? All right, I'm going to make a motion to concur and place on file as amended communication number 2024-69.
So the motion is to concur and place on file as amended with the change of the language to the Montana Opioid Abatement Trust. I'm going to ask County Attorney Joyce if that's appropriate.
Mr. Chief Executive, Commissioner Thatcher, as long as it's clear that the agreement that you're signing has that change made, because what's attached obviously to the agenda is an agreement that does not have that language in there. So maybe Karen can answer whether or not that's just a matter of changing a couple lines, or but as long as it's clear that the action that you're taking is to amend that name and that name only, so that it doesn't change anything substantively in the agreement, then I think it's okay to.
Thank you, County Attorney Joyce. I'll let Director Malogny speak.
Sure. Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher, members of council. This was just a technicality and a recommendation from the trust attorney at the state that to keep consistency through all of the agreements throughout the state of Montana, that they be called the Montana Opioid Abatement Trust. And so they want to just keep all of them consistent. So one isn't named something different, so it doesn't change the agreement or the conditions of the agreement. It just names it something different. Still means the same thing.
Thank you, Director Malogny. So with that, should, I'm asking the county attorney, should we have that contract language amended? And then we can approve it with the amended language, but just make sure that it is reflective of that, and submit it tomorrow with that correction.
Sure.
Okay. All right. So we'll go back to the original motion that we had here to concur and place on file as amended with the language of the Montana Opioid Abatement Trust added to that language. Is there anything on the question? Could commissioners please vote? And would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
9 yea, 0 nay.
9 yeas, 0 nay. 9 yeas, 0 nay. Motion passes. Moving on to item number 32, communication number 2023-71. J.P. Gallagher, Chief Executive, requesting Council of Commissioners authorize to have Chief Executive Gallagher sign the second amended lease. The lease outlines the expanded premise of the Kelly Warehouse commercial building and increase the lease fee structure. Commissioner Sorge.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. You know, I had a couple questions. My first one was, I was wondering if they were if the head frames was in compliance with their discharge limits. From what I understand, they will be, and they're going to be. Then my next question, I guess, of this is what the numbers that were used for the new lease agreement. How are the numbers were obtained, and where did we get the numbers?
Thank you, Commissioner Sorge, and I can answer both of those questions. The discharge, we have not come into full compliance, but within this lease, it requires them to be in full compliance and has no impact for Butte-Silver being that is occupying that structure, so that the discharge that will be coming out of head frames buildings will be strictly head frames discharge, so that we will be able to isolate that and work with head frames as they move forward with their pretreatment and their discharge and getting in compliance. So to answer that question, they are not in full compliance currently, but we will be working with them. But it requires them under this lease, through the lease, you can see that. The price of the leased land was, we had an appraisal done by McLeod, and they put across the appraised prices, and so based on the square footage, we use those appraised values on lease space to determine the lease that we have in front of you today.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive.
Yes. Commissioner Frederickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. That kind of got, Commissioner Sorch's question kind of got me thinking. So are we going to start, I know we have some vehicles up there and equipment. Is this, I didn't see in the lease where we're going to be removing it. Are we keeping ours in there? Or can you talk about that a little bit?
Commissioner Frederickson, no, we will be vacating all of the space inside the buildings, and so that would require us to remove all of our vehicles, all of the equipment that is up there, and so we have plans to get everything out of there. We're working with head frames on a time frame to get that done. They've agreed to giving us some time, get us through these harsher winter times when we can get the vehicles moved. But we do have plans for all of that, and are working with Public Works, Parks, Community Enrichment, and Weeds are all working together to remove that out of there. But once we are completely out of there, then the responsibility is 100% theirs for the buildings.
Yeah, I'll go with the follow-up, I guess. I know that not too long ago there was talk of head frames purchasing the warehouse. This lease, I think, is, well, I just got off of it, but what is it, 5 years? Is that what it?
Well, they have the option to renew 5 years for 75 years, I believe, is the full lease. This is just amendment to those. It's a continuation of the lease that they signed in originally.
And then, thank you. And then my follow-up to that is there interest in purchasing the warehouse from Butte-Silver?
Commissioner Frederickson, the head frames has expressed interest in purchasing this. I think that they're working through their capital of being able to come forward and come up with the purchase price of what that appraised value was. From my understanding, from my conversations with Mr. McKee, that they are looking at just based on the cost of interest rates and stuff. They're kind of delaying the purchase and would like to be in the lease based on their contract that they have with their distillery as they've expanded that. They need to have that kind of locked in for that contract to continue with that other entity. Commissioner Fortune, I believe you had a question.
Chief Executive, I got a couple questions on this agreement, number 16, it says the city county acknowledges Headframes has the right to place mortgages and have liens placed on the premises. Why are we allowing them to borrow money against a building that we own?
Commissioner Fortune, I am not sure on the language of that, if that was County Attorney Joyce. Can you help me answer that question?
Perhaps. Mr. Chief Executive, Commissioner Fortune, so that language has been in the lease since it was originally approved. It's not any change in terms of this amendment, but I believe at the time that it was in order to allow Headframes to obtain appropriate financing for the expansion of their facility, that and they needed to be able to do that. In Butte-Silver apparently at the time agreed to allow them to do that so that they could continue with their operations.
So thank you, County Attorney Joyce. Commissioner Fortune, follow up.
Chief Executive, County Attorney, I guess. Does that seem like a smart move for us to put ourselves out there for Headframes and just hope for the best? Or
Commissioner Fortune, and I know that's to the county attorney. I believe that as we're doing this is an amendment to the original lease that we have here. So it's the original language that we're already obligated to and already committed to. So on that, it's not really a change to the lease of what we had there. It's a change to the space of what we have the lease. But I'll let County Attorney Joyce follow up on that.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive, Commissioner Fortune. Chief Executive Gallagher is correct in that we are already obligated under the terms of the lease that currently is in effect. That provision is already in place, and so whether you approve this amendment tonight or not, that provision is still there. And it's really not my place to decide why the commissioners approved that lease back when they did. I'm sure that there was an explanation for it at the time, but it is a provision that we are required to comply with because that lease is in place, and this amendment does not affect that particular provision.
Thank you, County Attorney Joyce. I'll follow up Commissioner Fortune, and then I'll go over to Commissioner O'Neill.
just a comment, Chief Executive, that's a terrible, I mean, that just seems so dumb to me, but I guess we're past that now. I just, why we ever would stick our necks out there and just, I mean, who's on the hook when, and hopefully it doesn't, but if Headframes ever goes out of business, do we get the building? Does the bank get the building? I mean, and then it just, another comment, but why are there no rate increases every other lease? Usually they negotiate terms every 5 years, not 75 years.
Commissioner Fortune, the rate increase has been reflected in there based on what the rate that McLeod appraisal came back on lease space and what that space was. Follow up, Commissioner Fortune.
Chief Executive, I just meant for the whole space. I mean, I get there's rate increases just for the additional square footage, but usually you renegotiate terms after a certain amount of time. And I mean, it just seems like what happens in 5 years if we have the opportunity of a lifetime and we could lease this place out for double. I mean, it kind of seems like we're just setting ourselves up for the next 75 years of no increases, and here again in the lease they have the first right of refusal to any business that wants to try to move into the Kelly mine. It's just we're giving away all of our leverage for a business in Butte.
Commissioner Fortune, I understand your concerns. This is a lease that was entered into with approval of the Council of Commissioners, and the original lease was 2016, am I correct? I'm not positive, but we're still obligated by the terms of those. The rationale behind that, I wasn't here, and many of the commissioners here were not here as well, but it was agreed to at that time. But the rate increases, they are reflective even in the current lease space that they have in there, and what the appraisal came out. We are asking for the current rate of what that lease space would be for warehouse and finished office space in that. So, okay. Commissioner O'Neill and then Commissioner Reardon.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. So since we're amending the contract, can't we amend number 16 and take it off there since we're amending it? I mean, if in theory, as far as I know, as an amendment, we're changing what's happening. They're getting more space. I mean, the contract's what it is now. It's changing, okay? It's so to say that we have to go back of it's changing. So I believe, I know this 75-year thing, I think I just almost fainted realizing that now that that's really sinking in. But I guess that's my question. Can we amend and delete 16? Because again, we're talking about interest rates and how they can't afford to buy it. That's fine, but now we're sticking out even further to, there are other, we have other contracts like this probably in town that may have that mortgage thing stuck on it with, you got the lease, you got this. So, I mean, I don't know. I feel like that if we hurry up and just stamp this and move on, I mean, I guess that's my question. Can we amend? We're amending the contract now. Can we make a motion to amend to delete number 16 so they can do that?
Commissioner O'Neill, I will ask County Attorney on if that is based on the original contract. Are we allowed to amend the language that was agreed to in that and make a motion to do that here?
Mr. Chief Executive, Commissioner O'Neill, I think that you would probably need to hold this in abeyance to have further discussions about that, because there are two parties to this lease. And I think that if you made that, motion, perhaps Headframes wouldn't want to sign the lease. I mean, I think you have to have a discussion with them, because the lease should be negotiated between the two parties. And if that's an issue that the council wants to discuss, then I think you need to at least let the other party have that negotiation with the city county. Right now, I just don't think it's advisable to make an amended term without the other party's consent.
Thank you, County Attorney Joyce. So I think, just kind of paraphrasing, if you wanted to hold this in abeyance and talk to the Headframes about the terms within the lease, then we could do that. County Attorney Joyce.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. And just to add to that, I mean, if they refuse to sign the lease with that amendment, you are still stuck with the current lease that has that provision in there. So the only thing that you wouldn't be approving is, the added rate and the extended boundary. So I don't know that you can go ahead and make that. You can make that motion, but whether then Headframes would sign the lease would be questionable. But it is something that, if you held it in abeyance, that the chief executive could go back to Headframes and have that discussion with them, that is a concern of the council.
Thank you, County Attorney Joyce. Commissioner Reardon.
Thank you. I am concerned about this also, and when these topics come up, I also remember when I first started on the council, when this lease come up before us before, and clause number 16 come up in my younger days and all that, and I questioned it then. And at that time, I was told by department head in this room that basically they had already taken $1 million loan using this clause. Question number one would be, how much money is owed on this loan, if it's paid, and what's going on there? Number two, this gentleman in business, I mean, I'm not being critical of anybody or new business or anything like that, has pretty much left Butte-Silver Bowl hanging. Because last year at this time, or when Mr. Gallagher, we were purchasing the armory. And we basically done that under the assumption that they were going to buy this warehouse. So I don't know what's left with that quagmire either. But the thing about it is I agree. I mean, these leases, I get legality. But then here we have, like Commissioner O'Neill made a great point, we have this lease we're changing to change the dollar amount and all that stuff. So I mean, a contract's a contract. If you open it up under one issue, and I'm not an attorney or anything, you sure the hell should be able to open it up on another issue. And I mean, it just doesn't make good business sense as us as commissioners to acknowledge this, is that this is the way we're going to do business. I get legal documents and all that, but like I said, we've been working with this gentleman in business for quite a while, and basically I would really be interested to see how much is left on that $1 million loan, if that's a fact. And number two is that basically it's more or less like a simple item. I go rent an apartment, lease an apartment from J.P. Gallagher and all that, and want to move in and all that stuff. And basically I put his address, and according to the deal, I got this lease, and go borrow money against the department. I mean, it's absurd. It doesn't work in the business world. So I mean, I think that we really got to hold this and take a look at it. I mean, there's, you know, this from 2016, but come on, people, we got to do a better job at what we're doing, you know. And I'm not being critical of Chief Executive Gallagher or anybody, but I mean, I don't know. That's all I got to say. Thanks for listening to me.
Thank you, Commissioner Reardon. Commissioner Fortune.
Chief Executive, just to add on to that, I think we just have to hold this. At least to do more research. I mean, even if we determine that we're locked into the other contract, there's still the potential that the rest of the lease space we could get a better deal on. I mean, if we just agree to this, our hands are tied for 75 years with no increases, and basically they run the Kelly mine. And I just think even if we get a chance to at least have some leverage on some of this, I think we need to get Mr. McKee to try to negotiate some of this stuff.
Thank you, Commissioner Fortune. Commissioner O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I agree with that as well. And again, this is the reality of it, and versus trying to be critical about anything. But if you remember when this was brought up, when this lease went into place, there was going to be a lot more things happening at the Kelly mine that this commission was told, right? There was a lot more hopes and dreams that were going to be happening. I don't see any of that happened up there. The county put a lot of money into that building prior to that lease happening, and there was going to be a convention center. There was going to be all kinds of stuff that was happening. Again, repeating myself, none of that has happened, even none of the outside stuff. So again, we need to, do a better job. Well, we can do it today by, holding his feet to the fire and saying, hey, and whatever, times happen, whatever happened, but truth be told, what we were told as a county and all the citizens in 2016, it's not reflecting what we got here now today in 2024. So for us to just open this up and give more space and not hold somebody's feet to the fire, I think that, and with that, as I carry on his distribution of what he's doing up there, again, Chief Executive, you can answer this. Where are we at? You mentioned it, but where do we have in our lease if he's not abiding by that on his distribution of the discharge? Thank you.
Commissioner O'Neill, it's written in the lease that they have to abide by all regulations and permitting and things like that. It is written in there. And I just will follow up a little bit. I know that, and I know what you're speaking of when you talk about the renditions about what they were going to propose up there in the first place. Part of the, they're not, the head frame is not accessible and is not part of this lease agreement. So they had kind of had like an event area up there that they kind of had drawings and things that were rendered at that time. That's not part of this. That's not the possession of Butte-Silver. That's still Atlantic Richfield's property. The property around this is a lease for the buildings only. It's not about any of the grounds. We are keeping the grounds ourselves. And then the lease itself does allow for Butte-Silver to take possession back if they fail to fulfill the obligations within the lease. I'm not trying to discourage you guys from changing mind about holding this in abeyance and bringing Mr. McKee in and talking to him about that. So that's not it. But I just wanted to clear that up. I know that they brought commissioners and offered commissioners to go up there and tour what was going on. They have expanded significantly what they're using that for, and the capacity is one of the really big deals that they need to have with the agreement that they have with this other as they're distilling for another entity here, and so that's part of it. And I don't disagree. You know, if you want to have Mr. McKee come back up, I think that's probably appropriate. Commissioner Callahan.
Thank you, Chief Executive Gallagher. I just curious, you know, they gave everybody on the council an opportunity, several opportunities to go tour, and they would explain exactly why they needed to lease this property. Could I see a show of hands of anybody that did make that tour? And one of the main reasons they need that piece of property is to come in compliance. They've got to put an additional filtration system in so they can come in compliance with the discharge. They need the room for that. It has to be a heated building, and they have to have a building to continue operating that's heated, and that's why they need this building. They also have a very, very large contract that they need a bunch of storage space as well. So for them to continue operating and growing, they explained pretty well at those tours that this expansion is pretty important for their business to move forward.
Thank you, Commissioner Callahan. Commissioner O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. And that's great that you guys had the time to go to that. That would have been nice to come up. Showtime for commissioners is every Wednesday at 7:30. So that would have been, and I appreciated the invite, just didn't suit my schedule and would have loved to have gone. And but I appreciate that information, knowing what that is. The first I've heard about that. If it was in an email or something, obviously missed it. But hey, for everybody, showtime 7:30 on Wednesdays to get that important stuff to us. So Commissioner Callan, I definitely appreciate that information. Thank you.
Commissioner Fortune first, and then we'll go Commissioner Thatcher, and then Commissioner Reardon.
Chief Executive, all these expansions, they're still using a building that the taxpayers own as collateral. No matter how you dice it, no matter what their plans are, this contract calls that out, and that's not right for the taxpayers to have to hold that burden.
Thank you, Commissioner Fortune. Commissioner Thatcher.
Thank you, Chief Executive. I think everybody's making some pretty good points tonight. I think what we should recognize, obviously Headframe is a great partner for our community. But what I think is important also is that this is a cost of doing business, and whether we agree with these rates, I don't disagree with you guys to sit and hold this and really look into this, because, you know, they're a profitable company who gets a pretty good deal, in my opinion. But I think, to Commissioner Callahan's point, yes, they have all of these great opportunities, and they have a lot going for them, and that's great for our community as a whole. But I do think, to Commissioner Fortune's point, that this does need to be evaluated. But just really quick, County Attorney Joyce, and do they, I guess, governments act as like guarantees to private? Isn't that essentially?
Commissioner Thatcher, County Attorney Joyce.
Mr. Chief Executive, Commissioner Thatcher, in general, no. And I don't think that we are allowed to do that, but I need to read the actual language of the lease to be able to fully answer your question.
Thank you, County Attorney Joyce. Commissioner Reardon.
Thank you. You know, I get Commissioner Callahan, and I think everybody in here is all about Butte. But the thing about it is we got to treat everybody equally and all that. And every contract, when you open it up to lease and all that, unless I'm missing something, should be looked at or whatever. So at this time, too, I think we need to know where we're at with Clause 16. And if we're going to hold this document, I believe Commissioner O'Neill has somewhat of a motion going, is at this time to go with that motion, I would like to request that if there is any liens or amounts being held for this business, referring to Clause 16. And I think that would be an interesting aspect to check out before we move on in that. Because I really think that, you know, I'm no entrepreneur or anything like that, but the thing about it is it's called doing business. And I mean, really, when you're doing business this way, there's some really, especially in 16, that really affects the taxpayers' considerations. So I just thought that put it in there. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Reardon. I don't think we have a motion on the floor yet, though, if somebody would like to make one. Commissioner Fortune.
Chief Executive, I'll make a motion at this time that we hold this with time to do more research on where we're at in terms of the contract language and what our options are, and allow the other party to come and speak his case to us and try to renegotiate some things.
We have a motion and a second to hold this, so it would be hold in abeyance and bring Mr. McKee forward and talk about the lease here. Follow up, Commissioner O'Neill and then Commissioner Frederickson. Sorry.
Thank you, thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. And this is the county attorney. If, as we're looking at this, throw this question on there: can a local government collateralize an entity?
Commissioner O'Neill, County Attorney Joyce.
Mr. Chief Executive, Commissioner O'Neill, again, I need to look at the language of the lease, but generally no.
Thank you, County Attorney Joyce. Commissioner Frederickson and then Commissioner Sorge.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. Yeah, I agree that I've never been really crazy about some of the language in this lease. However, I do wonder if it's even possible for us to get the information, if there is any, mortgages taken out on this lease and how confidentiality. So I guess I'm just wondering if that is even information that we would be able to seek. And I guess I'll ask County Attorney Joyce, and it's okay if you don't know that.
Commissioner Frederickson.
I know you just said you need to do more research, but.
County Attorney Joyce.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chief Executive, Commissioner Frederickson. Yeah, I think that if you go ahead and hold this in abeyance, it would allow us the time to be able to answer these questions that you're inquiring about.
Thank you. I understand. Thank you.
Thank you, County Attorney Joyce. Commissioner Sorge.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. This is a question for County Attorney Joyce. Eileen, we don't have the authority to even negotiate with the people from the head frames. So actually the motion would probably have to be to request the executive board to renegotiate number 16. Wouldn't that be the proper way to go about this?
Commissioner Sorge, County Attorney Joyce.
Mr. Chief Executive, Commissioner Sorge, I think by holding it in abeyance, you're allowing the executive branch to get in touch with the other party to the lease and have these discussions.
Thank you, County Attorney Joyce. Commissioner Reardon. There's a call for a vote, so if we call for the vote, then we got to vote on the call for the vote first. So there's a motion. Is there a second? There's a motion and a second to call for the vote. Could commissioners please vote? And would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
9 yeas, 0 nay.
9 yeas, 0 nay. Now we'll go back to the motion on the floor, and we will have the vote of commissioners. So the vote is to hold it and to negotiate with head frames on the language of the lease. So there's nothing more on the question. Could commissioners please vote? And would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
9 yeas, 0 nay.
9 yeas, 0 nay. Motion passes. So, moving on. We already did section 3, so we'll move on to section 4, ordinances and resolutions introduced to judiciary. We have one. We'll move to, so please note that. Moving on to section 5, ordinances and resolutions for second reading. We have one, Council Bill number 2024-01 and ordinance number 2024-01. Clerk, please read the caption.
An ordinance amending sections of Chapter 10.52 entitled Parking, specifically amending sections 10.52.180, 10.52.190, repealing sections 10.52.390, 10.52.540, 10.52.605, 10.52.650, 10.52.740, 10.52.790, 10.52.855, 10.52.970, 10.96.010, and providing for an effective date herein.
Commissioner Frederickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I move to place Council Bill number 2024-01, ordinance number 2024-01 on second reading and passed, having been deemed fully read at length.
We have a motion and a second placing Council Bill number 2024-01 and ordinance number 2024-01 on second reading. Is there anything on the question? Could commissioners please vote? And would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
9 yeas, 0 nay.
9 yeas, 0 nay. Motion passes. Moving on to section 6. Section 6, ordinances and resolutions for emergency suspension of the rules. We have two, resolution number 2024-04 and resolution number 2024-05. Commissioner Frederickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I move for the suspension of the rules for the purpose of passing resolution number 2024-04 and resolution number 2024-05 by waiving subsection 7 of Rule 36 of the Rules of Order of Business of the Council of Commissioners, thereby having it considered for advanced passage without reference to the Judiciary Committee.
We have a motion and a second for the emergency suspension of the rules. Is there anything on the question? Commissioner, please vote. And would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
9 yeas, 0 nay.
9 yeas, 0 nay. Motion passes. Moving to resolution number 2024-04. Clerk, please read the caption.
A resolution repealing Resolution 2022-40 and replacing it with this Resolution 2024-04 and establishing a City County of Butte-Silver Bow, Montana PACE program and providing for an effective date herein.
Commissioner Frederickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I move to place resolution number 2024-04 on final reading and passed, having been deemed fully read at length.
We have a motion and a second placing resolution number 2024-04 on final reading. Is there anything on the question? Could commissioners please vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
9 yea, 0 nay.
9 yeas, 0 nay. Motion passes. Motion passes. Moving on to resolution number 2024-05. Clerk, please read the caption.
A resolution amending the mill levy for the state equalization, county high school equalization, county elementary equalization, mill levy, and VOTEC mill levy authority for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2023 and ending June 30th, 2024, and providing for an effective date herein.
Commissioner Frederickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chief Executive. I move to place resolution number 2024-05 on final reading and passed, having been deemed fully read at length.
We have a motion and a second placing resolution number 2024-05 on final reading. Question. Could commissioners please vote? And would anyone like to change their vote? Clerk, please record the vote.
9 yea, 0 nay.
9 yeas, 0 nay. Motion 0 nay. Motion passes. Next, moving on to calendar and other meeting events. Please note all the dates and times of the meetings that we have coming forward. And next, I'll move to any public comment on any item not on the agenda tonight. Please come forward, state your name, your address, and what you'd like to speak to us about tonight.
Thank you. My name's Bill Foley, 804 Zerelda, and I just wanted to say, in light of the RE Silicone news today, being a guy who saw my dad come home with a pink slip from the Anaconda Company and what that feels like, I think today would be a good time. I'd like to publicly acknowledge my good friend and classmate John McKee for, I believe it's 33 good paying jobs that he has in town with his business. Recently he was offered $50 million to sell his business. They just wanted this brand, you know, his machine, take it all out of town. John turned it down, kept his $64,000 salary, $64,000 from $50 million, because he didn't want to take those jobs out of Butte. And I think that should be recognized on a day like today. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Foley. Is there any other public comment on any item not on the agenda tonight? Seeing none, I would take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, signal by aye. Aye. Opposed?